The first signal did not come from Earth. It came from the cold silence beyond the outer rim, a faint burst of static caught by deep-range satellites. At first, the analysts thought it was only noise. But then the words became clear, words not spoken by any human tongue. It was an alien voice, and it carried a warning. The voice said only one thing again and again, broken and weak as if the speaker was running from something. Do not attack the humans, you will never escape. The warning was recorded, analyzed, and played in secret rooms. No one on Earth knew yet what it truly meant, but the galaxy already did. Somewhere far away, battles had been fought, and those who had survived carried the story of humanity's strength. The truth was that humanity never wanted war. Earth had grown tired of it long before the stars opened their doors. Exploration was the dream, not conquest, yet war found them all the same. The first fleet of aliens did not come to talk. They came with weapons brighter than the sun, ships the size of cities, and voices filled with arrogance. They believed Earth was soft, fragile, unprepared. In their councils, they called humans a young species and easy prey. They did not know that humanity's history was carved in endless conflict, that survival was written in the bones of every child born on a world that never forgave weakness. The first attack fell upon the mining colonies of Jupiter. Without warning, fire tore across the black sky. Human outposts crumbled, and hundreds died before alarms reached Earth. Panic spread, but panic was not new. On Earth, every generation had faced disasters. Floods, earthquakes, wars between nations, plagues humans endured all. The difference now was that the enemy came from the stars, and the response had to be united. For the first time in centuries, every nation, every leader, every hand joined together. Old flags lost meaning, and a new banner was raised. It was not for one country. It was for humanity. The aliens underestimated them from the start. Their scouts expected surrender, expected humans to bow. Instead, the first response was not to beg but to fight. Small ships, weak in comparison, launched. From Earth, they had crude weapons compared to the aliens' shining cannons, but they fought with fury. Every loss only fueled the next battle. The aliens laughed at the beginning. To them, it looked like ants throwing stones at giants, but those stones began to land. Human pilots rammed enemy ships rather than retreat. Soldiers boarded alien craft with nothing but courage and knives. Engineers rewired failing machines mid-battle, turning wrecks into weapons. The galaxy had seen wars before, but never had it seen a species that refused to die quietly. Soon, the warning spread. Survivors of the first alien fleet whispered among themselves. They told others across the stars of humans who never let enemies flee. Those who ran found themselves hunted still. Humans did not chase glory. They chased safety, and safety meant no enemy was left free to return with stronger guns. The warning was born in fire. Do not attack the humans. You will never escape, but Earth itself was not yet safe. The enemy gathered again, stronger this time, bringing more fleets. On the mountains, children were taught to hide. In cities, workers built weapons faster than food. Humanity stood on the edge of survival, yet their spirit burned brighter than ever. Each family remembered the history of struggle. Each soldier remembered they were fighting not only for land but for the future of their species. When the second wave came, Earth did not tremble. They opened the skies with their answer. The war that began on Jupiter became the unexpected war. A war humanity never sought but was forced to embrace. The aliens believed numbers and technology would crush Earth. Instead, they discovered something terrifying. Humans fought with memory, with rage, and with the knowledge that to surrender was death. And though their ships were small, though their weapons were crude, their will was greater than steel. The alien commanders began to fear the very thing they once mocked. They realized this was not a fight against soldiers. It was a fight against a species that had been forged on the hardest of worlds. In the silence of space, the first alien prisoner whispered to his captors. His words were not threats, not pleas for mercy. He spoke with trembling fear. "We were warned," he said. "They told us, no one escapes from you." His voice echoed in the dark chambers, and though the humans did not yet understand how far that warning had traveled, soon they would. The galaxy was listening. The galaxy was watching. And for the first time, the galaxy feared Earth. The alien fleets did not retreat after the first battles. They regrouped beyond Saturn, where their massive carriers waited like dark mountains. In space, thousands of ships hovered in silence, their silver hulls reflecting the light of distant suns. Inside those ships, alien commanders spoke in sharp voices, their words filled with anger and disbelief. They had faced resistance before, on other worlds, but never like this. They had expected humans to break in the first strike. Instead, the humans struck back harder. What was worse, those small fragile ships of Earth had done damage no one believed possible. The aliens were forced to admit it. Their arrogance had blinded them. Among the aliens, one voice rose above the rest. He was a veteran, scarred from past wars across the stars. He had seen entire civilizations fall and vanish in fire. His eyes glowed with unease as he repeated the warning he had once heard whispered in hidden corners of the galaxy. "Do not attack the humans. They never stop. They never let you flee." His words unsettled his fellow commanders. Some called him a coward, others accused him of spreading fear. But even as they mocked him, their hearts carried doubt. If humans truly were what he said, then this war could cost them more than victory. It could cost them survival. On Earth, the world had changed. Factories that once built cars now built weapons. Farms worked under the guard of soldiers while resources were pushed toward the war effort. Every street, every city carried the weight of the conflict. Yet humanity did not crumble. Instead, they hardened. Children learned drills in schools, families built shelters, and scientists worked without sleep. In laboratories deep underground, humans began studying captured alien technology. At first, it was beyond comprehension: machines that bent light, metals that healed when cut, energy weapons brighter than lightning. But humans adapted faster than the invaders thought possible. They learned, they copied, they improved. What once was alien began to become human. The first human counterattack was not grand. It was not led by massive fleets or glorious armies. It began with small strike teams, hidden in the shadows of asteroids. They slipped into enemy territory, planting explosives, hacking into communication lines, spreading confusion among the invaders. Entire squadrons of alien ships fell into traps where humans used the very rocks of space to shatter them. These victories were small in number, but vast in meaning. They showed the galaxy that humans did not only defend, they hunted. The alien council grew restless. Their reports carried a single truth: the humans fought like no other species. When beaten, they rose again. When cornered, they bit harder. They did not fear death. If anything, they seemed to embrace it if it meant striking down their enemy. The council ordered more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. They believed sheer numbers would crush Earth. Yet deep down, fear began to root itself in their hearts. They had begun something they could no longer control. On Earth, ordinary people became warriors. Pilots who had never seen war before now commanded fighter ships. Farmers became soldiers holding rifles on alien soil. Mothers and fathers who once worried only about their children's futures now worried about the survival of the species itself. Each battle, no matter how small, carried the spirit of an entire world. Humanity was not fighting for conquest, not for riches, not for empire. They were fighting because they had no choice but to live. And that made them stronger than the invaders could imagine. In the black silence of space, a battle was fought near the rings of Saturn. It was meant to be a decisive strike by the aliens. They came with a fleet 3 times larger than the last. They expected to sweep the humans aside. But when their first wave charged, something unexpected happened. Human ships rose from the rings themselves, hidden by the icy debris. Dozens of alien cruisers were torn apart before they even knew the humans were there. Explosions lit the darkness, and for the first time, alien commanders felt true fear. It was not only the battle itself. It was the realization that humans had learned too quickly, too dangerously. They had taken the enemy's lessons and turned them into weapons in only weeks. The veteran alien, the one who had given the warning, stood silent as his comrades argued over strategy. He saw what they refused to admit. The humans could not be defeated in the way others had been. They did not break when crushed. They sharpened when pressed. He whispered to himself words that once sounded like myth, but now felt like truth. We cannot escape them. And though he stood among the strongest armada in the galaxy, for the first time in his long life of war, he felt the cold touch of dread. Back on Earth, the news of victory near Saturn spread across every screen. Every radio, every voice. People cheered, but behind their cheers was steel. They knew the war was far from over. They knew more ships were coming, but they also knew something greater. For the first time, humanity had made the galaxy listen. For the first time, the galaxy feared Earth. The wreckage of the Saturn battle was gathered quickly by human salvage teams. Twisted metal, glowing alien fragments, and shattered hulls floated across the rings, drifting like bones of fallen giants. Humanity wasted nothing. Every broken piece of alien craft was dragged into hidden docks where scientists and engineers swarmed like ants over the remains. The alien weapons were unlike anything they had ever seen, but humans did not stare in awe for long. They began pulling the machines apart, testing, experimenting, learning. What was alien yesterday became human today. In underground facilities, sparks rained as engineers welded human steel with alien alloys. Generators hummed with stolen energy cells, and new weapons began to form. They were rough at first, ugly, unstable, dangerous to those who handled them, but they worked. Soldiers carried rifles that spat beams of light, tanks rolled with shields that could bend blasts, and ships gained engines faster than anything Earth had built before. Humanity did not wait centuries to evolve. They advanced in months. It was as if the war itself lit a fire under every mind, driving them further than they thought possible. The Alien Council was not blind to this change. Reports poured in from scouts and survivors, each one carrying worse news than the last. Human ships now fought with weapons that mirrored their own. Human armor resisted their beams. Human tactics adapted within days of being observed. The commanders grew restless, their voices rising in anger as they blamed each other. How can they rise so fast? One shouted, "They are primitives." But another voice cut through the noise, the voice of the veteran who had warned them before. He stared at the others with cold eyes and said, "This is what happens when you fight a species that never stopped fighting its own world. You gave them reason. You gave them purpose. And now you cannot stop what you have unleashed." On Earth, the war effort had transformed society. Where once people argued over borders and power, now they stood united under one cause. For the first time, humanity felt like one tribe, one species. The stars above were no longer unreachable. They were the battlefield. Even those who never held a weapon contributed. Farmers grew food for soldiers, doctors treated the wounded, teachers raised children who dreamed not of fear but of victory. Humanity was no longer defending. Humanity was preparing to push forward. The first true human counterfleet was born in this time. Dozens of new ships, built from both Earth steel and alien salvage, rose into orbit. Their engines glowed brighter, their weapons cut sharper, and their armor held stronger than anything humans had ever commanded. At the front of this new fleet stood commanders who had been miners, traders, even simple explorers before the war. They were not chosen because of rank. They were chosen because they survived when no one else did, because they had proven that they could turn defeat into strength. Aliens struck again, this time near Mars. They sent a fleet meant to crush the human spirit before it spread too far. But what they found waiting was not the fragile ships of the first battles. They faced a new human fleet, scarred but reborn, armed with their own stolen fire. The battle was chaos, light and fire filling the black sky. Alien cannons blasted, but human shields held. Human ships fired beams of light that pierced even the strongest alien armor. For the first time, the aliens felt what it meant to be on equal ground with the species they once mocked. When the battle ended, the alien fleet was shattered. A few escaped into the darkness, but most were destroyed. Humanity stood victorious again, and the galaxy shivered at the news. The warning that had once been whispered in secret now spread like wildfire. Other alien races listened. They remembered the words, "Do not attack the humans. They will never let you flee." In the halls of the Alien Council, silence fell after the Mars defeat. No one mocked the veteran anymore. His warning had become truth. Some among them argued to withdraw, to cut their losses before more fleets were lost. Others demanded vengeance, claiming that retreat would stain their honor. But deep down, all of them felt it. Fear. Not just fear of losing, but fear of what humans would become if the war dragged on. They had already risen in months what took other species centuries. If given more time, what would they turn into? Would they remain defenders? Or would they become something far worse? Back on Earth, humanity did not stop. They pushed harder. Factories thundered day and night. Children watched skies lit with the glow of departing fleets. And the words, "No escape," became a promise written in every soldier's heart. They were no longer only protecting Earth. They were shaping their future. The war no longer belonged only to Earth. Humanity had defended, survived, and endured, but now they were ready for more. Their fleets, once small and fragile, had grown into forces that could strike beyond their home system. For the first time, human ships crossed into alien space, hunting the very invaders who had once thought of Earth as nothing more than prey. The first targets were supply lines. Human fleets moved silently, guided by intelligence gathered from captured prisoners and decoded transmissions. Convoys carrying food, weapons, and reinforcements were ambushed in the cold black void. Alien ships that once sailed proudly now burned, their wreckage floating as a warning to others. No supply line was safe, no trade route untouched. Humanity was no longer the hunted. They had become the hunters. In the Alien Council chambers, voices clashed in anger and despair. The commanders who had once laughed at Earth's resistance now found their own fleet scattered, their soldiers demoralized. One counselor demanded full retreat, shouting that continued war would bring only ruin. Another bellowed for vengeance, insisting that to back down would shame their species forever. Yet in the corner, silent as always, the veteran who had warned them from the start spoke only once. "They will never let you flee," he said. His words cut through the noise like a blade. The others felt quiet, for deep in their hearts they knew he was right. Meanwhile, humanity was learning to fight on a scale larger than ever before. Fleets coordinated across vast distances, striking in perfect timing. Commanders who once only dreamed of the stars now commanded thousands of lives. They were untrained in tradition, but tradition mattered little. What mattered was survival, and survival had shaped humans into warriors without equal. Their tactics were brutal, efficient, and unpredictable. Where other species fought by rule and order, humans thrived in chaos. They turned what others called desperation into their greatest weapon. On one alien world, a garrison looked to the sky as shadows fell across their horizon. Dozens of human dropships broke through the atmosphere, engines screaming as they descended. Soldiers poured out, their rifles glowing with alien energy stolen and reshaped into human hands. The defenders fired desperately, but they could not stop the flood. By the time the smoke cleared, the human banner stood where the alien symbol once flew. It was not conquest for territory. It was a message. Earth had come to them, the galaxy. Watched in silence. Races that had once dismissed Earth as weak now whispered the truth to each other. The humans did not fight like others. They did not accept defeat. They did not allow enemies to escape and return stronger. Every blow against them became fuel for their rise. In a matter of months, they had leapt generations ahead. If they were this strong now, what would they be in years? What would they be in centuries? The thought alone filled many with dread. Within the alien council, the cracks widened. Some demanded immediate peace, desperate to end the nightmare before their entire empire collapsed. They argued that humans could not be crushed, that continuing this war was suicide. Others screamed that peace would mean bowing to Earth, that surrender would erase their honor forever. The chamber shook with the weight of their conflict. Yet through all their arguments, one truth echoed in their minds. The humans would not stop. Back on Earth, victory after victory did not make the people arrogant, it made them sharper. They remembered the cost of the first attacks, the blood spilled on Jupiter, the lives lost on Mars. They did not fight for glory. They fought because they understood the truth. If the enemy was not destroyed, the enemy would return. And for humanity, there was no greater crime than allowing a future where their children might face the same war again. On the edge of alien space, another battle began. Human fleets surrounded a massive alien carrier, one of the largest ever built. Its guns lit the void with blazing fire, tearing through asteroids and shattering smaller ships. But the humans pressed forward. One by one, their ships took the blows, opening paths for the others. Pilots rammed into engines, soldiers boarded the carrier's hulls, and engineers hacked into its systems mid-battle. Hours later, the carrier fell torn apart from within. The humans had done the impossible once more. The galaxy trembled as news spread. The words once spoken as a quiet warning had now become undeniable truth. Do not attack the humans. You will never escape. And still, the humans advanced. For the alien council, the choice was narrowing. Continue the war and face destruction, or seek peace and face humiliation. Neither path was bearable, yet one thing was certain: humanity would not allow them to decide slowly. The humans were coming, and they carried with them not just weapons, but a will that no empire could contain. The galaxy was no longer united in silence. Whispers spread through trade networks, through black markets, through the halls of power. The name of Earth traveled faster than light, carried by terrified survivors who escaped battles only to tell stories that shook entire civilizations. At first, many thought the tales were exaggerations, desperate lies of soldiers broken in war. But then the proof arrived: shattered fleets, captured ships, intercepted signals. The truth was undeniable. Humanity had risen, and they were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Among the alien races, fear took many forms. Some trembled at the thought of human fleets crossing into their borders. Others saw opportunity. Quiet envoys slipped through the darkness, reaching out toward Earth. They spoke in hushed voices, offering trade, offering secrets, offering alliances. They did not dare speak openly, for their own empires would call them traitors. Yet they knew survival meant choosing the right side, and the right side was no longer the empire that had once ruled with iron. It was humanity, on Earth. These envoys were received with caution. Leaders gathered in hidden rooms to debate. Could they trust aliens who once ignored their cries for peace? Could they risk betrayal at such a fragile time? Yet the logic was clear. Some of these races were not enemies. They were trapped, just as Earth once was. To fight alone would mean endless war. To fight with allies meant survival. Slowly, carefully, humanity began forming the first threads of alliances beyond their homeworld. Meanwhile, inside the alien council, chaos ruled. The empire that had once commanded respect now cracked under pressure. Entire factions argued, threatening civil war. The council chamber, once a place of strategy, had become a battlefield of words. Those who had lost fleets screamed for retreat. Those blinded by pride demanded annihilation. They spoke of humanity as vermin, as disease, as something that must be crushed before it spread further. But every time they spoke with fury, their voices shook with fear. They remembered the warning, "Do not attack the humans. They will never let you flee." The veteran sat among them, silent until the arguments reached their peak. Then, when the chamber fell into uneasy quiet, he spoke again. "We are not facing a species. We are facing a force of nature. You cannot negotiate with fire. You cannot reason with storms. Humanity will not allow escape because they know mercy will be their death. You gave them no choice but to become what they are now." His words carried weight, and though many hated him for it, they knew he spoke the truth. Humanity, meanwhile, prepared for a greater push. Their fleets, now larger than ever, carried not only soldiers but also scientists and builders. They did not only destroy, they learned, they rebuilt, they advanced. Every victory left them stronger than before. Where alien empires fought for dominance, humans fought for existence. That difference made them unstoppable. On the frontier of alien space, another battle shook the stars. The Empire had gathered one of its greatest fleets, determined to halt the human advance. Thousands of ships stretched across the void, their cannons glowing with deadly fire. They believed sheer scale would break the humans. But when the first volleys lit the darkness, the humans did not scatter. They dove into the chaos, their smaller ships weaving like predators among giants. Explosions tore through the fleet as humans struck with precision, cutting through weak points, turning the enemy's size into its weakness. The battle raged for hours. Alien commanders shouted orders, but their fleets crumbled under the relentless assault. When the smoke cleared, the humans stood victorious again. Entire squadrons of the Empire's finest lay in ruins, their wreckage drifting as silent monuments to arrogance. Only a handful of ships escaped, carrying with them the horror of what they had seen. They knew the warning was not only true, it was prophecy. Back on Earth, the people did not celebrate as conquerors. They mourned their dead, rebuilt their cities, and prepared for the next fight. Victory did not bring comfort. It brought clarity. They understood the truth more than ever. If they allowed the enemy to live, the war would never end. And so they sharpened their resolve, carrying in their hearts the promise that humanity would never again be prey. The galaxy trembled as the balance shifted. Old powers weakened, new alliances formed, and the shadow of humanity stretched across the stars. For the alien empire, the moment of decision had come. To fight further meant destruction. To retreat meant humiliation. But one fact was clear. To all who lived under their rule, humanity would not stop. Humanity would never let them flee. The alien empire had reached its breaking point. Their fleets, once unchallenged across the stars, now lay in ruins. Worlds that once flew their banners trembled, waiting for the next human strike. Their people whispered fear in the streets. Children cried at the thought of Earth's name, and their soldiers no longer believed in victory. The council was fractured beyond repair. Some demanded peace at any cost. Others screamed for a final stand. Pride and fear clashed until only one decision remained. They would gather every remaining ship, every soldier, every weapon of their empire, and crush humanity in one decisive battle. If they won, they would survive. If they lost, their empire would end. The call went out across their worlds. Factories burned through the night. Armies were raised from every planet, and fleets assembled on a scale never seen before. The sky of their capital world filled with warships, millions strong, casting shadows across oceans and continents. It was to be their last hope, their last show of strength. They believed the humans could not face such numbers. They believed scale alone could finally break the unbreakable. But the humans knew. Scouts returned with reports, and commanders studied the enemy's desperate move. Humanity did not hesitate. They gathered their fleets, every ship built from sweat and sacrifice, every soldier hardened by battles of survival. The human fleet was smaller, yet each vessel carried weapons forged from alien technology, strategies born from endless adaptation, and above all, the will of a species that refused to die. The battle began on the edge of a dying star. The alien armada stretched across space like an endless wall of fire. Their cannons roared, shaking the void with storms of energy. Human ships met them head-on, weaving between blasts, striking at weak points, and vanishing into chaos before reappearing with deadly precision. The void turned into a sea of explosions, fire painting the darkness and blinding light. At first, the alien empire believed they were winning. Human ships burned, wrecks scattered across the battlefield. But then, patterns emerged. For every human ship lost, 3 alien ships fell. For every strike the empire made, humanity answered harder. Their smaller fleet moved with precision, every pilot fighting not only for themselves, but for their entire species. They did not retreat, they did not hesitate. They pressed forward with the fury of a storm that no wall could hold back. Hours turned into days. The alien commanders screamed orders, but chaos consumed them. Their fleets were too large, too slow, too rigid to fight the humans' chaos. Their pride had become their weakness. One by one, their capital ships exploded, their lines broke apart, and their armies faltered. Human strike teams boarded their greatest war machines, tearing them apart from within. Even when surrounded, the humans fought until death, dragging enemies down with them. The Empire realized too late that they were not facing soldiers. They were facing an entire species that had chosen survival over everything. In the heart of the battle, the veteran alien watched his empire crumble. He had spoken the warning countless times, yet none had listened. Now he saw the truth unfold before his eyes. Humanity did not allow escape, not because they loved war, but because they knew mercy would bring only more death. He whispered into the comes not to command but to confess. "We were warned," he said. "No one escapes them. No one ever will." His voice carried into silence, lost among the dying screams of his fleet. When the last alien flagship fell, silence spread across the battlefield. The human fleet, battered and scarred, stood victorious. Thousands of ships were gone, yet their will remained unbroken. Across the galaxy, the message spread faster than light. The empire was shattered. The war was over. Humanity had won, but humanity did not cheer as conquerors. They buried their dead, rebuilt their ships, and returned to their world, not with glory, but with purpose. They had not fought to rule. They had fought to survive, and survival had been won. Yet every human soldier, every commander, every family knew one truth: the galaxy would never forget what had been shown. The warning was no longer whispered. It was carved into history. Do not attack the humans, they will never let you flee. And as humanity stood among the stars, no longer bound to Earth alone, they carried that truth forward. They were no longer just a species. They had become a force, a storm, a fire that no empire could contain. The galaxy trembled, but humanity looked ahead, ready for whatever came next.